ידיד נפש, אברחמן, אברחמן. ושופטך אל רצונך, אל רצונך. ידיד נפש, אברחמן, אברחמן. ושופטך אל רצונך, אל רצונך. ירוץ עבדך כמו היה להשתחווה אל מחדרך. ידיד נפש, אברחמן, אברחמן. ושוכבתך אל רצונך, אל רצונך. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. ירוץ עבדך כמו היה להשתחווה אל מחדרך. ידיד נפש, אברחמן, אברחמן. I'm not on? Is anybody getting me? We're doing Shabbat tonight on location. So let's see what's happening. We're going to check it out here like we usually do. My producer tonight is Michael. And no, let's just see what's happening. It's coming on. It is on. It's on. It's live on my, what are you on, Michael?
I'm on Facebook.
On your Facebook or my Facebook?
Your page.
Should be on my page, but go to Rick Konkoff's Coffee House, and I'll tell you why. I bet I know why. This is the benefit of having your own show, is that you can be informal and it doesn't matter.
All right.
Yeah, it should be on both channels.
See you on the coffee house.
Okay, so Shabbat Shalom. We are at the lovely home of Michael Schloss and Julie Simkovitz, two of my dear friends. Heather and I are here tonight for Shabbat dinner. I'm looking out at the mountains. It's beautiful, beautiful view from their deck, which I know from time to time has wild animals on it. And I just got done telling some folks today how much we enjoy Michael and Julie, and how excited I am to have actually known Michael for a long time, indirectly through his dad's pharmacy, the Sebastopol Pharmacy, right? Siesta Pharmacy. And his dad, Daryl Schloss, ran it, and Michael was right behind him. And so we're lucky to be at their house. We're looking forward to a great dinner. We always get good food at the Schloss Simkovitz home. And it's very funny. Tonight I posted, I've been doing Shabbat for a year and a half. And so what? And my good friend Rick from Oregon posted, wow, he to him that meant I've been doing Shabbat continually. So it's a year and a half long Shabbat. And in a way, it has been a year and a half long Shabbat, because life has been different for the last year and a half. And we've all been put into sort of a rest mode, resting from our normal pace and our normal rhythm, and in a little bit of a hold. And we may be on a hold again soon. We're hoping that things can mellow out. We don't know, but what we know is that it's Shabbat. And I'm going to bless the candles, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience of having done Shabbat basically every Friday night on Facebook Live, Rick Kunkoff's Coffee House, my YouTube station, and also my my wonderful group called I Was in Rick Kunkoff's Class, where all my alumni hang out. And we've had anywhere from 25 to 100 people. And I want to share with you a little bit about what that's meant to me, and why it's been such an important experience, based on my own experience and teachings of rabbis. And so we'll get to that. But first, I'm going to bless the candles. So if you have candles, join me. If not, you can join me anyway. We don't stand on ceremony as far as dictating what people's rituals need to contain. Even if you don't have candles, you want to bless the sun and the moon, that's fine. By my book. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And the blessing of the candles resonates with what I want to talk about tonight, which is so what about Shabbat. I have many rabbis, and I learned something from all of them. And one of my rabbis, Rabbi George, was talking to my students one night about, in our informal class that we have, about Shabbat. And we got into a discussion about what it is to be Shomer Shabbat. So Shomer Shabbat means you're a guardian of the Sabbath. And Shomer Shabbat would mean light the candles, done with everything, no more work, no more driving, no more turning on and off lights, no more ordinary tasks until sundown on Saturday, and praying and davening and reading from the Torah. And that, to be Shomer Shabbat, actually, I don't know anybody who's 100% Shomer Shabbat, but to be Shomer Shabbat is really a holy and wonderful thing. However, in American society, and probably in Jewish society all over the world, it is a little difficult to be Shomer Shabbat. Not so difficult in Israel because everything closes, but here where we are, I have errands to do. I have to drive to work, home from work, and it's dark. I have people coming over for dinner and they're driving. We have to cook, and there's all these things. So what does it say? Halakhically, it says two things. You shall not collect wood for a fire, and you should not build a fire or kindle a fire on Sabbath. So essentially, collecting wood would be the work, and building a fire would be the igniting of something. So there's where you can't drive your car, and you can't turn the lights on, and you need somebody to do all these tasks for you. And by that teaching, it works well if you live in a very, very observant family, and everybody's observing Shabbat. But if you have kids that you have to take to sports events, and you have to schlep around, and you have errands to do and things you have to do in the weekend because you can't do them during the week, and you need to fix this and fix that, and all the lists of things that you have to do, then you just say, oh, well, forget it. So basically, that's why I don't do Shabbat. And that's your excuse. My excuse for not doing Shabbat for 40 some odd years was I play music and I entertain on weddings and bar mitzvahs. So of course weddings won't be on Shabbat. I entertain on bar mitzvahs, and it's my living, And I stretched out pikuach nefesh, which means to save a life, and technically to make my living. I was saving a life because I was feeding my family, but that was stretching it. But you see, it became my excuse for ignoring Shabbat. The Rabbi George's teaching as a Reformed liberal Jewish rabbi is that by expecting everything, you often get nothing. So what would it be to say, to find your way to express or to experience Shabbat? And so that starts with remembering that the Shabbat happens once a week. Even that is something that a lot of Jews don't do. What if it was to actually light the candles and eat some challah and have a glass of wine and bless it, do a bracha? That's another level. And what if it was, so you could go up the ladder, up the hierarchy of Shabbat mitzvot. But what was to happen if you were to say, okay, so I'm just a Shabbat beginner. So my Shabbat beginning is I'm not going to check my text messages or email for 24 hours. What if that was your first Shabbat shtick? And you just did that. And for a month, all you did was on Shabbat, you established the ritual of not checking your messages. Okay. So, or in the old days, your phone messages, your message machine. And then what if you said, okay, someone said, that's too hard. I have to check my messages. I can't do that. Okay, so never mind. Be done with Shabbat. No. I've suggested students who cannot untether themselves from their phones. Okay, why don't you have 24 hours of not saying anything negative about someone? And that's your Shabbat. So the idea is, if you can pick one thing to start and that's your Shabbat, why does that count? And it counts because it's a positive ritual. And I argue that one of the reasons we have so much obsessive and compulsive and habitual and addictive behavior in our society is because the flip positive side of all those things I just mentioned is ritual. And when you don't have ritual and you don't have meaning and you don't have a balance and a rhythm, then sometimes the negative flip side, which is obsession, compulsion, can take its place. So just picking the one thing is establishing a ritual. So why I bring this up is because since COVID started, I decided I would do a virtual Shabbat every week. And yes, I was doing it for my friends, and sometimes my friends come and sometimes they don't. But I know my mom watches it either when it's happening or after. I know my Aunt Shirley, my Aunt Joan, and Michael, and a few other people watch it either during or after, because you can watch it after it's archived on all the same platforms. But for me, it created a new ritual. And I have to be honest, I did not celebrate Shabbat every week. But for this year and a half, other than 2 times, one when I had a family thing and the other when I was away and couldn't do it, I have done this Shabbat. And this has been my Shabbat shtick. Now, shtick doesn't sound very positive and holy, but it is, because I actually have gotten to the point where I don't feel right if I don't do it. So for me, and what have I gotten out of it? Well, it's really awesome. Another one of my rabbis, Rabbi Jonathan Slater, used to say, we were talking about kashrut one time, and a group of kids asked him, what do you get out of kashrut? And he says, well, actually, you're not supposed to get anything out of the mitzvot. You're not supposed to get anything about keeping the Shabbat. You're honoring the oneness that we have and that exists in the universe, which we call God. And that's enough. But Rabbi Slater said, and by the way, one of the perks I get anyway from keeping kosher is I never put something in my mouth without thinking about it first. What would happen if we all didn't put something in our mouth, food in our mouth, before thinking about it first, or any substance in our mouth? How would our world and our lives be different? And I love that. So it doesn't I don't need to get anything out of it, but it's like value added. I have gotten something out of it, and that is the ritual of every week. So I'd love to inspire everybody to pick one thing to make their Shabbat living. And if you want to add something, that's fine, but just pick one thing. And even if it's sitting staring at the sunset for 15 minutes, it's not for me to judge. It's for you, your neshama, to know that you have what we call a moment. And it's the same thing with children. Children don't really have a moment between anything. Shabbat's a moment between the weeks. And children, a lot of you remember, and you've heard a poem before, maybe on Shabbat or other events, about whatever happened to play clothes. And it's not that when we were young, us altacockers or premature altacockers used to get home from school and take off our school clothes and put on our play clothes. And that was the moment. It wasn't about the school clothes, the play clothes. That was the moment, that the ritual moment daily that meant you go outside and you play and you're out there. So there's no moment now. And for a lot of kids, there's no outside. So that's what I mean by the ritual. And so I'm going to segue into a beautiful melody called S.I.N.I. This one was written by Shlomo Carlebach. May his memory be for a blessing. Famed rabbi, quite out there rabbi. Started out as Hasidic, ended up in Haight-Ashbury with the House of Love and Prayer, and probably turning on over 1 million Jews, reconnecting over 1 million Jews with their Judaism. Ezri me'im Adonai, Osei shamayim v'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai, Osei shamayim v'aretz. S.I.N.I. Ele'arim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. S.I.N.I. Ele'arim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. And that was also Shlomo's Shema. And every week I talk about the Shema a little bit, and I give my own translation, which is something like this: listen, because listening is super important. And I heard someone saying something today, the difference between listening and hearing. I don't know if hearing precedes listening or listening precedes hearing, because sometimes people say, listen, you're not hearing me. Or they're saying, I know you're hearing me, but you're not listening to me. So they're a little bit interchangeable, but I love to research the etymology of these kind of words and find out what they mean. But anyway, it's saying, some people say hear and some people say listen. So choose your word. Listen, everybody. There's something out there. We don't know what it is, but we do know that it's one. So that's how I hear the Shema. And hello, Phyllis. Phyllis is one of my dear friends and mentors from my younger days. And I get to see Phyllis and Stu, my dear friends and family members, actually, at least surrogate family members, every time I go down to LA. And I wish they'd come up here so I could share them with my great friends up here in Northern California. So how do you transition from no Shabbat to something Shabbat? And I'm going to say that, and I know there's a lot of rabbis and experts and theologians that would disagree with this, but I'm going to say you're Shomer Shabbat if you think you're Shomer Shabbat. And whatever you choose to do, it makes a difference. And that's what's happened for me, is it's made a difference. It's made a difference in my stamina. It's made a difference in my spiritual life. It's made a difference in my sense of happiness and joy. It's made a difference in terms of my relationship with my family. It's made a difference in terms of my self-esteem, because I feel like I'm doing something that's helping people. It's made a difference, I think, in my health. So for me, that's enough. And so maybe look at what you need. It's always a good question. What do I need? I've never met anybody that doesn't need a day of rest. And by the way, I was once asked at a workshop, what would be the one thing that I would want to share with the world community, not just the Jewish community. If there's one part of Judaism I would share, and that would be the Shabbat. Because who doesn't need that? And we've had a little bit of it, as I said, during the pandemic. We've slowed down. And there's a lot of people who don't want to go back to work, or don't want to go back to the kind of work they were doing, or the kind of, they want to do meaningful work, and they felt they have not been doing meaningful work. So whatever that is, I'm not going to dictate or suggest what your Shabbat should be. I'm just going to suggest that it's worth trying. And by the way, one of the most common experiences I have when I ask somebody, I meet someone, when you meet someone who you think is Jewish, you say Shalom Aleichem, and they say back Aleichem Shalom. So when I think about that, and I think about meeting someone Jewish, and I say, "Oh, are you Jewish?" And they say, "Oh yeah, I'm Jewish, but I'm not religious." And I say, "Okay, can I talk to you a little bit about that? Because I think you might mean, maybe, I'm Jewish, but I'm not observant. Because religious, the definition of science is the quest for understanding of the unknown in the physical world. And the definition of religion in Webster's dictionary is the quest for the understanding of the unknown in the spiritual world, and we call that God. So all that God is the unknown in the spiritual world, and that should be enough. So when people say they're not religious, then to me that says, oh, you don't wonder what happens after we die and before we're born, and that we know everything, and everything is smaller than us. So we have awareness of everything that exists, and if we're not aware of it, then it doesn't exist. So I think religion is just that gray area. And I love this saying when I read a book one time. It's a fascinating book. It's called The Newcomer's Guide to the Afterlife. It's by Daniel Quinn. And it's about this guy who it's about when you die, you get handed this book. And in this book, it's instructions on how to go through the afterlife. It's a little bit, and how to segue. It's a little bit comical, but it's very serious in some spots. And there's a whole story about it, which you should get the book. I felt it was a great little book. It was a small little greenish gray book. And this guy's walking through, and he says, one of the things that happens in the afterlife is that you struggle not to forget yourself. And when I say yourself, I mean your physical self, the body that you're in. So you're walking through this in-between space and you're saying, wait, who am I again? I'm starting to forget who I am, because that's the ego. And the ego, the I, goes away, I think, when we die, because part of the physicality or part of the nefesh, the spirit that goes around us. And so you go up to people and you're looking for people you recognize and saying, do you recognize me? Oh yeah, you're Rick. Oh, okay. So God forbid. But anyway, it'll happen eventually. I know that. And anyway, this one guy walks up, this guy says, well, what I've learned so far in my journey is that God doesn't exist. And the stranger that he walks up to says, well, you've just proven that God exists. Really? He said, yeah, because in order to not exist, something has to exist. So just by saying it does not exist gives it existence. And I really like that. So, if I was to stand in the mall tomorrow and ask 200 people as they walk by, have they ever heard of God? I'm pretty sure their answer would be yes. So on some level, God exists. We don't know what level it is, and we don't know what it looks like. But anyway, I like that little theological piece. And I'm going to sing another song. One of my favorite folk songs. I'm going to sing it. I know that Phyllis loves this song too. So it's about existential living. It was written by John Denver. I am often bereaved that John Denver is gone. So much music that never happened or came from him unless someone else taps into it. And a lot of people don't know that John Denver wrote this song. Today, while the blossoms still cling to the vine, I'll taste your strawberries, I'll drink your sweet wine. A million tomorrows shall all pass away, ere I forget all the joys that are mine today. Well, I'll be a dandy and I'll be a rover. You'll know who I am by the songs that I sing. I'll feast at your table, I'll sleep in your clover. Who cares what tomorrow will bring? Today, while the blossoms still cling to the vine, I'll taste your strawberries, I'll drink your sweet wine. Million tomorrows shall all pass away, ere I forget all the joys that are mine. I can't be contented with yesterday's glories. I can't live on promises one-third through spring. Today is my moment, and now is my story. I'll laugh and I'll cry and I'll sing. Today, all the blessings lead to the vine. Taste your strawberries, I'll drink your sweet wine. A million tomorrows shall all pass away, ere I forget all the joys that are mine. So, for years and years and years and years and years, I said, I'm going to try to keep Shabbat. One day, I'm going to try to keep Shabbat. And then I had this revelation through my teaching of private music lessons, because my students used to say to me, I'd say, I really need you to practice this week. And they'd say, I'll try. And so I'd say, well, hold your hand out. And they'd hold their hand out, and I'd say, well, put your hand on my hand. So they'd put their hand on my hand. So I'll put your hand on my hand, and they'd put their hand on my hand again. Then I'd say, I want you to try to put your hand on my hand. And they'd go like this. I go, that's not trying to put your hand on my hand. That's putting your hand on my hand. I want you to try to put your hand on my hand. And they say, well, I don't understand. And so trying to put your hand on my hand looks something like not putting your hand on my hand. So I had a student many years later tell me that this really helped him. And it helped me too, because trying is a weird verb that doesn't have action. trying is not an action word. It's a verb, but it's not an action word. So we can just stop trying and start doing. And it's hard. And I also, every week, I have a little tiny bit of, I've got this thing to do tonight. And so that means that this might be my day off, but I have to do something. Then I realize, I love doing this thing. And it brings me joy, and it brings me happiness, and it is healing. So I go on and do it. So my friend Michael is going to bless the wine with me. You don't have to get on screen, but you can. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon yintilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehila lemikrae kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat. And just then I saw my mom. Amen. Chaim. So we are again at our dear friend's house for Shabbat, Julie Simkovitz and Michael Schloss, and we're excited because we get to say a Shekianu. Why do we get to say a Shekianu? Because it's the first time we've been out for Shabbat dinner with somebody at their house since, I think, the beginning of the pandemic. We've had Shabbat, we've had dinner with our friends, and we've spent dinners together, but I don't think we've had a Shabbat dinner. So therefore we get to say Shekianu. And I love the Shekianu, because the Shekianu is the ultimate existential blessing, because to me it says there is this continuum, and we are all on it. And even though we're doing this right now, probably at this moment on Shabbat, 5 generations ago, my great-great-great-great-grandfather or grandmother was also doing the same thing on Shabbat. And so there's a connection between that and now. There's been no stopping. There hasn't been a week when there hasn't been Shabbat. There might have been a week when we didn't experience or notice or celebrate Shabbat. And so the Shekianu says we're on that continuum, and all we have to do when we fall off is jump back on. And the Shekianu is a great way to do that. And isn't it interesting that most of us, probably beyond our great-great-grandparents, don't even know the name of the people that go before that, or we might have to look it up, but generally we don't know it. So generational memory is very short and ephemeral. So fortunately, we're given the Shekianu to kind of say, from way back then till all the way now, we're still here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehekianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. And I'm here because my mom was here and still is here. And my mom just came on, and I say, hello, Mom, I love you. My mom just celebrated her 90th birthday. And I love that that she comes on or also watches this afterwards and listens to what I say. Sometimes some people ask if I write out or if I plan out what I'm going to say. And I don't plan out what I'm going to say, but I let it come in. And that's all I can say. So let's sing another song or two, and then we're gonna check out so that we can go have our Shabbat dinner and enjoy each other and enjoy company. I hope all of you are doing that out there. And this is Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbat with Rick Konkoff on Rick Konkoff's Coffee House. Oh, I want to tell you why it's on Rick Konkov's Coffee House. Because, okay, technically on Facebook, like your Facebook page, you're not supposed to do anything that resembles business, or it's supposed to be just family. Well, there's these little things, they're called bots, and they go around cyberspace, and they go around Facebook looking for people who are doing business, or singing songs that they have not paid copyrights on, whatever, and that blocks them off. So for about 2 Shabbats, the bots decided that Shabbat was business, and they made my recordings go, it broke up my recordings. So I've been broadcasting, I probably shouldn't tell the bots this, but I've been broadcasting from Rick Konkov's Coffee House and then sending it out everywhere else, and that seems to work. And isn't it funny that the word bot is in Shabbat? So anyway, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha Hey, la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 Bamir Bamaro, I don't mind. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la la. So we are now in the month before High Holy Days, which are never easy and necessarily or specifically joyful, but wholly significant. So this is a really good time for us all to start gathering up the shards, the broken shards of glass that represent people we've hurt, or people who we've hurt and we don't even know we hurt them, or anything that we've done to harm anybody or any being. And so getting ready for that is what the next month is all about. So we'll have some special kinds of services around then. One more plea. This is a Jewish plea, because my students, we always play this game, which is called Make Rick Make It Jewish. So they can give me any topic, and it's my challenge to make the topic Jewish through a Jewish lens. So I'm going to make this Jewish, which is in Breshit it says, be fruitful and multiply. but replenish the earth. And so I was hearing the very devastating reports on global warming this week, and I was realizing I would like to inspire my friends and relatives and everybody who I know to somehow bunch up our errands, what I'm working on too, so that we're doing half as much driving as we were doing. And it's not that that will solve the problem, but if we can all cut down on our emissions and the things that we do to cause emissions, and of course we can't necessarily get factories to do that, but we can do it. And we don't need to drive our cars as much as we drive our cars. And there are alternatives. And so let's take advantage of that. Let's see if we can make a little dent, because that's a little bit of tikkun olam, and we need a lot of tikkun olam. So I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat 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 Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat 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 Shalom.